Speaker, as this Prime Minister raises taxes on food, brings back malnutrition, brings in record-smashing food bank use, the best he can come up with is a bunch of scripted talking points from junior staffers in the PMO. That is outrageous.
Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox. The one thing the Liberals seem intent on is lying to Canadians and telling them everything is great.
The one thing the Conservatives seem intent on is calling out those lies, even if it means being ejected from the House. Let's take a look.
What Canadians know is that the Prime Minister has doubled housing costs, doubled the rent, doubled mortgage payments, doubled the needed down payment. After 8 years, Mr. Speaker, our housing costs have worsened at a greater rate than all but one OECD country. And yesterday, a senator asked the head of the Prime Minister's own housing agency if there is a federal government plan to eliminate the 3.5 million home deficit that we have in Canada. The answer? No. It's not me saying that. It's his own housing agency. So given that he doesn't have a plan, why doesn't he watch the common sense housing documentary I put forward so that he can see a common sense plan to cut bureaucracy and build homes?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, it is shameful that the Conservative leader is exploiting the very real anxieties and fears of Canadians for clicks and views. This leader continues to demean co-ops as Soviet-style housing. He called a Niagara family's home a shack, and he keeps using homeless people as props. A responsible leader acts on the concerns of Canadians instead of exploiting them for political gain just so he can get his 15 minutes.
Hear, hear.
Are you kidding, Trudeau?
He's better that Pierre plays a better social media game than he does.
Yeah, Pierre's not the one that's having trouble getting clicks. And you're just crying because he actually understands how to use social media effectively to communicate with Canadians. The only way you know how to communicate to Canadians is by calling them names. And Canadians have long memories, Justin Trudeau. And he doesn't use homeless people as props. What he does is he listens and tells their story and hopes that you're actually going to listen, get up off your ass, and go and do something. That's not being used as a prop. What that is acknowledging that people are really struggling in this country and trying to do something about it. All you're doing is complaining that everyone's attacking you. Remember when you said, oh, it's tough to be a politician in this country? Uh-huh. Yeah,
so tough. Cry me a river.
Must be real tough.
I also wanted to comment on this documentary that Pierre put out. I believe it's this one called Housing Hell, How We Got Here and How We Get Out. It's about 15 minutes long. The French is about 16 minutes long. And it was posted 4 days ago as of us recording this. And the English version has over 318,000 views, whereas the French version has 8.7 thousand views in 4 days. That's astronomical.
That's a great video.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
What is shameful is that this Prime Minister is causing homelessness in this country. He's caused the doubling of the number of people eating at a food bank in Toronto. One single mother in Sydney said, well, this month I had to choose between eating and having heat. My kids are getting fed, but my house is freezing, end quote. The Prime Minister's solution is to quadruple the carbon tax on that single mother and on seniors. Mr. Speaker, we have a common sense Conservative bill to take the carbon tax off farmers and food. Why did the Prime Minister manipulate and intimidate Liberal senators into blocking that bill? Why does he want to tax food right before Christmas?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Minister.
Mr. Speaker, after all the intimidation and threats from the Conservatives towards parliamentarians on 234, it turns out the only farming the Conservative Party cares about is rage farming. Because all of this was just an attempt to fundraise off of the backs of farmers. Time and time again, the Conservative leader has shown that he wants to take Canadians back to the Stone Age instead of helping them get ahead. On this side of the House, the Liberal government will always be there to support farmers.
Man, if the Harper era was the Stone Age, then sign me up.
Well, let's compare. You want to send Canadians back to the Stone Age by taking away their electricity, by taking away their heat, by taking away their food. You literally want them to forage in the fields with nothing but a open fire to actually keep them warm in a Canadian winter. Because through what you're doing, you're taking literally everything else away. And then your solution to that is to create all of these programs that Canadians become completely dependent on for their survival, and then say, everybody should thank me because I'm investing in Canadians. This is just gaslighting on another level, folks. And we're not having it, which is why we're calling it out.
The Honourable Leader of the Official Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, as this Prime Minister raises taxes on food, brings back malnutrition, brings in record-smashing food bank use, the best he can come up with is a bunch of scripted talking points from junior staffers in the PMO. That is outrageous. Canadians are going hungry as Christmas is just around the corner, and a common-sense Conservative bill to take the tax off farmers and food could have helped solve the problem. Why did he manipulate and intimidate senators to keep the tax on the food and make our people go hungry right before Christmas?
He looked pissed.
I would be too.
But I don't even know how to describe it. I don't think I've seen quite that emotion from Pierre before.
Well, we have. It's been a while. The last time I remember that was when he was yelling at Trudeau to get up and stand up out of his seat. When he was yelling at him to stand up and stand up and start fighting for the rights of people in this country. And it was when the whole foreign interference scandal was blowing up.
You know, one thing I've noticed about Pierre is he's not very good at hiding his emotions, which, I mean, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I think in this case, it's a good thing because it's showing Canadians, you know, like, he's mad. And he again, I don't know what word to say. He's passionate, he's upset, he's disgusted. Like, you can all see it in his face. Yeah,
and, you know, his point is that all you can do is stand up and read a piece of paper. And no doubt this is as a result of his coaching from Mr. Vallquette.
Well, because Pierre's watching and listening to people coming to him at his rallies, you know, just when he's out in the community, and he's hearing their stories. I can't afford to heat my home. I can't afford to keep my home. I might be homeless by the end of the month. I can't afford to feed my children. My kids are asking Santa Claus for nutritious food for Christmas instead of for toys and things that kids should be concerned about. You know, it's just a horrible thing that Trudeau has done to this country and to Canadians. And Pierre wants to fix it. That's why they introduced Bill 234, C-234. And the Liberal senators blocked it.
Well, what happened is over the weekend, something happened, and then come on Monday, what the Liberal senators did is they added these amendments that literally gutted the bill. So it basically doesn't do anything that it says it's going to do anymore. And then they've sent it back to the House where it's going to essentially die.
But do you know what this all means? And it's like, it's true of any narcissist, but Trudeau in this case, he would rather be right than to help the people of his country. It is more important for him to be right. He doesn't care if you're starving, if you're cold, if you have a house. Doesn't care. It's important to him above all other things that he is right.
And this is what Canadians need to be seeing. There's legislation literally in the Senate. They could send it for royal assent tomorrow that would make things cheaper.
That would end, or at least alleviate, the misery of so many Canadians.
But no, can't do that.
Because he can't admit that he's wrong on this carbon tax.
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, we have an opposition leader who is so ideologically opposed to protecting the planet that he's willing to take Parliament hostage and stop Parliament from supporting workers, stop Parliament from supporting families, and stop Parliament from supporting Ukraine as well. The leader of the opposition has threatened to ruin the holidays if his ideological demands are not met. Let us be clear. We will keep working for Canadians while the Conservative leader is only fueled by the sound of his own voice and has no real plan for this country. We will never back down from supporting Canadians.
Great job reading those talking points, Trudeau. Great job. And yes, for those that don't know, what Pierre has done is he has committed to introducing thousands, and I think Karina Gold even said it was over 20,000 amendments to the fall economic statement, which would ensure that all the MPs have to work over the holidays, or else this doesn't get passed. So he's saying, no, Canadians don't get to eat, then we don't get to have a holiday.
And that's how it should be. It should be that, you're the guy in charge, and if the people that you're responsible for are having a hard time, you should work overtime to fix it. You should do whatever you need to fix it. And that's what Pierre is saying.
And then Trudeau's over there whining, oh, well, Pierre's going to ruin the holiday. Boo-hoo. Then step down as Prime Minister if the job's too tough.
A desperate and panicking Prime Minister spent the weekend calling Liberal senators, pleading with them to keep the carbon tax on farmers. Our common sense plan will take the tax off of the people who grow the food, ship the food, and as a result, Canadians who buy the food. Yesterday, he got his Christmas wish. Liberal senators gutted Bill C-234, a move that will keep food prices high while Canadians visit food banks in record numbers. So will he finally listen to the outcry? Will he listen to anyone but his globe-trotting activist environment minister and take the tax off so people can put food on their table this Christmas?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House. Well, we'll try. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The only senators that sit in any caucus are Conservative senators, Mr. Speaker, and I would note that up to 1/3 of those Conservative senators did not vote yesterday. Mr. Speaker, climate change is driving food inflation, not pollution pricing. Farmers are on the front lines of climate change. They know about climate change. They have had effects of droughts, flood, and storms firsthand, and unlike the Conservative Party, they have no problem saying climate change. Mr. Speaker, the Conservative strategy is to ignore climate change and stay hiding in the pockets of big oil and gas. That is no strategy at all, and it is risky and reckless.
The Honourable Member for Thornhill.
Mr. Speaker, every single senator who voted against this bill was a Liberal senator. The Prime Minister's carbon tax has already ruined Christmas for millions of Canadian families. So Conservatives are going to ruin Christmas vacation for this Prime Minister and his Liberal MPs. We will stay here as long as it takes to force them to axe the tax so the Canadians can afford gas, groceries, and home heating. So, Mr. Speaker, how long are we going to be here? Is it 1 week? Is it 2 weeks? Is it 3 weeks until this Prime Minister finally relents and cancels his carbon tax on farmers, on families, and on First Nations?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
This is what you get, Trudeau. This is what you get. Like, seriously. And I love that the Conservatives are standing up and doing this.
I like that it's part responsibility, as I just said, we're going to stay here and we're going to fix this for Canadians. I don't care if we have to work overtime. And the other part of it is spite. It's obviously spite.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, it's just beautiful when those two things can come together.
And I know Fox said overtime, but she didn't mean that, because none of these people get paid overtime, just so everybody understands.
Yeah, it's not like they're getting extra tax money, but they're going to be in Ottawa working as opposed to being home in their communities with their constituents, with their families, etc. But they're going to be in that House of Commons, and they're going to be working.
Yeah. So how long is it going to take, Trudeau? How much are you willing to play chicken? And how much are you willing to shoot downward in the polls? Because remember, you were tied. You were tied with the NDP. Like, are you seriously... This is going to be the hill that your party is going to die on. I guess we'll see.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Unlike the Conservatives who had their senators bully independent senators in the other place, we will stand up to the bullies on the other side. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to stand for Canadians every single day. And we know that when we put a price on pollution with the rebate, Canadians get more back than they pay. If the Conservatives cared about Canadians and their affordability challenges, they would support the price on pollution because it is putting money in their pockets. But typical Conservative style, they take from the poor to give to the rich.
The Conservatives can't take from the poor and give to the rich because they're not in government, Karina. And as for your, they have their senators bully other senators. We did a video on that. That was about Senator Plett, and he was absolutely livid because the Liberal senators introduced an amendment and then shut down debate and adjourned the session.
Because again, these Liberals are using every dirty trick in the book to shut down debate, shut down committee, pass laws, not pass laws, do whatever they want in Parliament. They do not care about Canadians. All they care about is being right.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday Liberal-appointed senators voted to gut common-sense Conservative Bill C-234, an action that betrays farmers. For the last decade, this PM has repeatedly made the claim that the Senate and those he appoints to it are independent, yet this weekend proved otherwise. He and his Socialist Environment Minister were busy employing a campaign of bullying and pressure to force his senators to kill this needed carbon tax carve-out. The carbon tax is punishing the farmers who produce the food and the folks that need it. Will this Prime Minister finally just listen to Canadians and axe his carbon tax?
Hey, hey. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I think my honourable colleague is well aware the other place makes a decision on their own. We do not. The Conservative Party of Canada has senators in their caucus. The Conservative Party of Canada does not have a policy or a plan for the environment. But I can assure my honourable colleague that we do have a plan for the environment, and that's why we're able to make an investment of $1.5 billion to help farmers, processors reduce their environmental footprint. Mr. Speaker, we have and will continue to support our farmers and ranchers in this country.
I just want to say, I mean, as I said, the Honourable Minister sits right here. I can barely hear him. So let's try to keep the sound down a little bit. The Honourable Member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, I know for a fact that farmers are asking that minister to axe the carbon tax. That PM promised that the Senate would be independent, but the actions this past week proved that that is a complete farce. We know he bullied his senators. The PM himself was on the phone over the weekend telling them they had to gut Bill C-234. The Prime Minister lied, and his minions continue to lie about...
Whoa!
Wow, that was passion.
Okay.
That gentleman's like not in the shadow cabinet or anything. He's what you would call, I guess, a quote-unquote backbencher, right?
Yeah, he does sit on some committees, but he's not in the shadow cabinet. But I've seen it a couple times, and he has some fire.
But it's not usually in front of the cameras. We don't usually see him very often.
No, he doesn't speak too often.
Like, I'm just impressed by, you know, how well he articulated that and just how passionate he was.
Yeah, and I love that he's calling them out. This is what I love about the Conservatives right now is they're done. They are just done.
They are our voice in Parliament. What we're all saying, what Cypher and I are saying here on this channel, what you guys are saying in the comments, what you're saying to each other in your communities, They are saying it for us in Parliament, that they have had enough because we have had enough.
So let's see where this goes, because according to parliamentary rules,
that's a big no-no.
Yeah, you're not allowed to say somebody lied.
At the same time I did knows full well that you can't use that word. Yeah. I would say the honourable member should retract that and apologize. The honourable member Battle River Crowfoot.
Mr. Speaker, I will not apologize to that Prime Minister when he continues to lie about the independence of the Senate.
Holy.
Wow. Okay, and for those of you that don't know, we did mention it in the previous video, but the Deputy Speaker right now, Chris d'Entremont, he is a Conservative. He is a Conservative.
This is what nonpartisan looks like.
Exactly.
Like, what Chris d'Entremont is doing right now is he is letting himself being guided by the rules that he is supposed to follow as acting Speaker at this point. So although he's a member of the Conservative Party, this is exactly what he's supposed to be doing. This is what an honorable person who takes that office seriously is supposed to be doing. Because technically, the rules have been broken.
I don't think there's any technically about it. They have been broken. You are not allowed to call people liars in the House of Commons.
No. And as much as we love seeing it, you're technically not allowed to do it.
And as true as it is, you're not allowed to do it.
And I applaud Mr. 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐 on this. Damien 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐 is the MP for Battle River Crowfoot. He's standing his ground and he's saying, I will not apologize because that Prime Minister is interfering in the independence of the Senate. That's a hell of an accusation, which there's obviously some proof of, or else they wouldn't be repeating this over and over again. And two, he's saying, no, damn the rules, he's a liar. So it's great to see these MPs standing on principle. You should be really proud if you're a constituent in Battle River Crowfoot right now.
The honourable member to apologize for the second time and retract that word. The honourable member knows full well you cannot use that word in this chamber. So this is the last opportunity. The honourable member of Battle River Crowfoot, will you be retracting that?
It's the truth. It's the truth. I will not apologize to the Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐, would you mind leaving us today?
Okay, so if you watched our previous video where we were talking a bit about the Speaker, it's easy to miss, but the Speaker only refers to MPs by their title and their constituency. When he said Mr. 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐, that was him going through the process of naming the MP. So that's what happens. When an MP is named, at that point, they must leave the chamber.
And that's why they call it naming.
That's why they call it naming.
But you can see all the Conservatives stood up and gave Mr. 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐 a standing ovation, because it takes a lot of courage to do something like that.
Yeah, because you're doing it in front of all of your colleagues.
And you're standing up and you are saying, the man leading this country is a liar and he is lying to Canadians.
And Damien 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐, if you've watched him at all, he does not strike me, and I imagine he wouldn't strike you as someone who grandstands, someone who lies. He seems like a gentleman of high integrity and of high principle. And, we've asked you to send emails and send letters to other MPs. Let me tell you, he could use an email tonight. He really could.
Just to say thank you. Thank you for standing up for your constituents. Thank you for standing up for all of us. Because what Mr. 𝘨𝑟𝑒𝑐 did today, it took courage and it took strength. He's not waffling on his belief because he's about to be kicked out of the House. He said, no, I believe what I said was right, and I will take the punishment for it. That is what a leader does.
This is the difference between a Liberal MP and a Conservative MP. A Liberal MP does what Trudeau tells them to do. A Conservative MP represents Canadians, not just in their riding, but across the country. So, despite the fact that he broke the rules, sometimes you break the rules for the right reasons.